Hi everyone, I welcome you to the round table to mark 18th anniversary of Outlook, and I really thank you on the behalf of my publication for making time. We are basically having this conversation about youth as we turn 18 and leave our teen years. We want to know from all you young achievers how you have looked at your teenage and how you have formed your dreams and careers, and how do you really look at today's youth as to what do they want and how do they really want to come forward in India. Aditya, we'd like to start with you. Once one turns 18, the first thing that we get is right to vote, and India goes into election year and Maharashtra goes into elections next year. So do you really think today's 18-year-olds would like to vote? How do you look at it?
I remember my birthday, and a friend of mine gave me this card saying, now constitutionally eligible to make and break governments. Now, that was a pun for me. But then again, it's a very important right given to all of us. Right. And I recently heard there are about 12 crore people who are going to vote, 12 crore new people. Okay. And it's very essential for everyone to go out and vote, especially the youth, because the trends I have seen is 18-year-olds are normally just fresh out of college or just in college last year. They have this fire to do something, they want to do something, they're passionate about going and voting for the first time. More than passion, it's also excitement. I remember my first time going and voting. Right. I think that will be a big movement this time. A lot of 18-year-olds are going to go out and vote.
Right. What do you think, Nishka? Did you vote when you turned 18? Was it an excitement for you?
Yeah, sure. I think it's like a choice which you have. And I think it is exciting to vote because you get a part, you're a part of changing the future of the country in some way.
Right.
So it is exciting.
When you look at, Agnello, when you look at the youth campaigns, how much of, when you did Lead India also and you did Har Ek Friend Zaroori Hota also, so while one is political, one is more about consumerism or, a product really. So when you make it, what kind of attitudes do you find and how do you appeal to them?
Is it Har Ek Vote Zaroori Hota Hai?
The election commission did do a song on that, saying Har Ek Vote. But probably, I think the oldest here, so I can talk from an earlier perspective. Yeah. Because when I was 18, I think there was no internet. Okay. And there were no computers either. I think we've slowly moved and become what we would like to call a width society rather than a depth society. So more people want to know more things. They definitely know many more things than we knew. Perhaps in order to do that, they've had to sacrifice knowing things thoroughly. So if you look at a younger kid, say even before 18 today, when we were younger, there were sports kids and there were culture kids and there were scholars. But today they do, Kathak classes in the morning, PR in the afternoon, study well also and do a bit of karate. Right. And all of that has, so the options are kept open till much later in order to decide what you want to do. Right. Whereas earlier you took a call around 10th or 12th because that is your life now. So you got made or broke by that decision. Right. Today you explore much later and then perhaps or maybe never actually decided you go. So I think the quantity of messages reaching them has increased so much that often the variety of choice is mistaken for a virtue called multitasking. It may result in 10 or 15 years of there being absolutely no specialization at all. Everybody knows everything without knowing anything really well.
Did you, Nimrat, have to go through the same grilling kind of childhood or early teens or college where you also want to keep all the career options open while trying for theatre and modeling? Or
I had a very unconventional growing up. So my father was in the army, so I've lived in many different cities and many different kinds of cities. Right. Small towns or satellite towns or bigger cities sometimes. So you grow up in very different varied environments and your influences are quite confusing actually. Because an army environment typically is a very protected sort of a walled city kind of an environment, where everybody has the same income, you have the same birthday parties, you're given the same return gifts, you have the same, everything is the same. Everybody's moving up at the same pace or with the same, you know.
Same ethos, more or less.
Yes. So, by the time I came to Delhi, where I completed my school education and then I went on to college, I was quite confused. I didn't know where I was going to be, what I was going to do. Performing arts was something I was always part of. That was maybe the only common thread that ran throughout my education and throughout my schooling years. But apart from that, there were no friends or there were no you know, long-term associations or nothing. So that was the only thing that I knew somewhere was with me no matter where I went. And it's a seed, you know, you just have to recognize it somewhere and then you have to find a way to nurture it and see if you can make a career out of it. Because coming from a non-artistic background completely, to make a profession of something which is considered a hobby, you know, in most middle class working families like mine was, I mean, it took a little bit of courage to admit that to myself as well, you know, that I wanted to give up a good education that I had behind me. I mean, so I did science in school. I took up science with economics in school. And then I did my bachelor's in commerce. And by the end of it,
to do a chartered accountant's course.
Yes, by the end of that, I was like, okay. So then I said, okay, now I don't want to do science or I don't want to do commerce or a chartered accountancy or an MBA. So, but I do need to do my graduation. So this phase was just before my graduation. And then I was like, so how do I do this? So I knew that I eventually wanted to end up doing what I do today. But I wanted to keep my education solid, but
so that
to a minimum number of years. So there was architecture, engineering and bachelor's in commerce. So that was 5, 4 and 3 years. So I came down to 3 years and I said, yup.
I think the number of safety nets is reduced. All these are safety nets, right? What happens if you don't make it to the night? Then you have this. So the number of safety nets reduced now a lot.
What, did you ever think that, considering you, like both of you actually have followed the family vocation, if I may say so. So, did you ever think of doing something else, like becoming a writer or doing something else altogether, like not part of it? Or?
I always knew I wanted to be a designer. Since I was little, I just knew it. I think it's, she said it is the influence of your background and the family you come from. So I came from a fashion background. I loved it so much. It became a hobby for me. That's what I wanted to do all the time. And when after school, not even when I turned 18, after school, I went into fashion college. I did my bachelor's in, I did my BA on the side by correspondence. And I went into designing. And I think 18, as you say, it's a age where you start trying to build a personality and you're trying new things. So for me, to kind of relate to that, to relate to the youth, I think they try to express themselves now through their clothing rather than trying to impress everybody, because everybody is building their personality now. So that's the kind of fashion I am trying to portray as well as a designer. It's like targeting the youth where you can wear you can style yourself in a way that you express yourself is what I feel is important as a designer.
I've wanted to be an astronaut. And then I realized at one point that you need good math and good physics. So I'm like, okay, that's not for me. Then I wanted to be a cricketer. I played for school. I was the opening bowler. We won the Harris Shield and all. But you need pace in a certain career. For example, cricket, you need to go at that speed. So that happened, and I took up studies in college. Before that, there was a phase when I actually wanted to be a part of the army. So all this happened, and then I realized in college that there's, as she said, there's been one common thread. Ever since I was a child, I've been touring the state with my grandfather, with my father, meeting people, loving to be at the heart of all that activity, sitting in all those meetings. And when I did my first thing at the Mumbai University, when the teacher's strike was on, when I was successful in getting a breakthrough in that, the satisfaction it gave me at the end of the day, that is what pulled me into this. So it was basically seeing this through childhood. Again, those 2-3 formative years when I thought, okay, if I'm going to take a big step in this, let's start off with doing some work, helping people around. So it's never been that I've been away from this field. Probably this was the most natural field for me. I said it the other day also, when it's something very funny, but at the end of the day when you help someone, you feel like Batman. That feeling has got me into this.
Earlier, between 10th or 12th, your future was being decided. Where you got admission or you didn't get admission.
But nowadays, if you see, the toppers always disappear.
Yeah, so I have a theory, which is we know so many people in captains of industry, right? CEOs, and I mean, at least we meet. I have never heard of a single head of a company saying or is in school or college I was a merit lister. I don't know where they go. When, you know, nobody. I mean, I've never heard of anybody saying I'm the CEO of this today. In 10th or 12th, I was in that top.
Normally, they're working for the CEO now who didn't do that well in school.
Yeah.
It's fashionable to be a college dropout, no?
I don't know how. How does it work? Like, how does that really?
No, what happens probably is, if you get a 95% or 96%, which is also less nowadays, you have a set pattern of life. You know that you're going to get a job in this company. Once you get a job, you're so much in that routine that you don't want to step out and dream something else. Whereas someone who gets a 50, 55% doesn't know where to go, what to do, and they want to do something different to sustain. And that sustainability clicks somewhere. Because most of the toppers come once in the papers as, this tuition classes, topper first, second, third, by 1 point, 0 point something, and then you disappear.
Yeah, but what he's saying, think about it, okay, at 18, if you get 95%, you don't have to think again.
Yeah.
If you get 55%, you have to think for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So it maybe makes you think much more, and the period when you're thinking is most fertile. Whereas all the guys whose thinking is most fertile, they just have to go to engineering college. And
But it's also because, as I said, lack of opportunities. Do we have something for film studies? Do we have something for fashion studies? Do we have something for performing arts?
Yeah.
We don't. We have arts, commerce, science.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm trying to break my head over, is to break this system. Why not have something like, do photography with biology or do history with something else?
When I look back at my educational years, not that I regret doing graduation, but I really wish that I had taken up vocational training in something that interested me from young. And literally, when it came to the point to make that choice between arts, commerce, or arts, science, or humanity, what is it? Science?
Commerce and
humanities.
Arts,
Right? So humanities was considered for the worst of the lot.
Exactly.
So as a 85+%er, I couldn't, even though my inclination was towards history or language, but वो तो failure होते हैं, the people who fail or flunkies or it was almost like an outcast section. I remember E and F were like, you don't talk to those guys. So, and I always wondered why.
And how do like what you were saying, like currently there are so many options before everybody, and actually everyone is doing everything at the moment. Is that really taking away from, although it's great to have options and choices, but is that taking away from quality or perfection, or do you also feel that the attention span is so limited? If the same person is doing 10 different things and was doing one thing earlier, so do you find it hard to grab their attention, to hold their attention, or?
Attention spans will be limited, and if you see, at least what I do, advertising campaigns now, there are 3 or 4 films in one campaign. Earlier it used to be one campaign, and next year there will be another campaign. But that's because of the number of messages coming through on TV. I don't know whether in careers, initially when it's like, saying, does a digital camera, has it made better photographers of people, or has it made everybody a bad photographer? So after the initial turmoil, it will settle down, and once again the good photographers who are anyway good at photography will even come through with a digital camera. But in terms of jobs, if you see movies of the 70s and 80s, there will be a recurring theme, there will be a no vacancy board. No vacancy, a guy going with his file for a job. That is a reflection of the biggest tension point of that time. There were no jobs. Right now there are jobs. You just want a job that you like, that's correct for you. But it's difficult to imagine that you just went and there were no jobs anyway, but that's why it was reflected in the movies. So when there is a multitude of choices, I think it may make you delay your specialization or perfection in it for some time, and because you're trying out so many things.
I feel like there's an immense lack of patience, in the youths today. I sense that a lot. I feel like the requirement to do something quick and the need for returns and the need for that success to happen quickly. There is very little patience, and there is very little importance given to investment without the promise of a return.
Right.
You know, everything is a quick gain, everything is
And
competitive in a strange way. I don't understand that. I mean, anytime I've communicated with college-going people or fresh out of college, looking for a job, money is very important, you know. That's just so important. It's not important to see how do you plan to live your life or what is the larger picture. Not that I had such philosophical, you know, intentions when I was 18, but I think there was lesser importance for money, or you know, yeah, that is something that just slightly disturbs me.
I think she's right, because I think dreams have been replaced by ambitions. There's a difference between a dream and an ambition. When we were younger and we went to the boss's house, he had a big car, we used to say, we wish one day we'll. Today, if somebody comes to a guy's house who's, say, I want that, that's an ambition now, because he has examples around him. Like we used to say, we never know anybody who's won a lottery, but he has examples around him, a lot of people who've got it in the last 4 or 5 years. So this desire to have an ambition makes them far more impatient and far more aggressive than a dream where you say, I hope it happens to me, versus I want this to happen to me. And
I think there are so many success stories which are highlighted now through books, through media, that everybody wants to be that suddenly, and they are not seeing what you have to go through to be there. It's basically, I want to be like that too. And there are many options, as you said. Even if a girl is going shopping, earlier I think there were limited options, now there's every new brand there. So I think everybody's getting confused, everybody wants the big picture, what they're seeing. I think that's what it is.
I think it's also good in a way for our country. Getting only the best points out of them, of course, is that she's right. I mean, there are a lot of success stories right from college. If you see, there are many new, so as to say, in terms of money, millionaires who have come up with, you know, e-commerce websites. And for example, the fashion industry is probably one of the biggest examples for girls today to come up in a way and have their own, you know, fashion e-commerce sites. Or maybe actors and actresses, or maybe sports. The whole average age is going down.
I mean, what we are kind of coming to is that, you know, then what the youth really wants is good infrastructure and good opportunities. Are they willing to make the effort for it, like in 70s or 80s?
It's a socialism debate, what you're saying. But I think there's a big role that the internet plays in this, because it allows you to lead a surrogate life. Okay, before that,
armchair philosophers.
if you believed in something, you had to take bunk college and go and stand in the rain to support that. Right? Now, with a click, you can save the whales. You can
like something. And
so a lot of that is. It's so. If this is so easy, I don't mind supporting. But tell me to leave my job or bunk college and go and stand. Oh no! Then wait, let me think about it.
But how much do you rely on social networks now? I mean, how important is social network for you as a politician?
No, it's very important for people who can have a thought, who can have an influence on people, because people follow you, people try to copy you at some levels. It's good.
How important is the internet for you as a person who is trying to reach out to so many people through acting or through ads or through theatre?
Well, I mean, I'm not so much into social media. I mean, off late, because of the release of a film I was part of, that kind of compelled me to be a little bit more out there. And it really did interest me to know what people thought, you know. I mean, apart from the usual expected fan mail or you know, the warmth that you experience, it's very interesting to see how Twitter works. And it's almost every man's newspaper article. You can pretty much be a journalist, and you can say what you want to say, and you create mass reaction by a sneeze sometimes. And you know, it's so interesting how people use Twitter as a statement. You know, it's a statement. It's not just, I mean, it's so political in its way. And I really feel that if you really want to use a medium to your advantage and to further a cause that you really stand for as a potential politician or as a designer or anything, I mean, it's about how clever you are and what it is that you want to manipulate, how, and what kind of a reaction that generates. That really interests me. I'm not much of a surfer. I don't really go and look at, you know, I maybe look at IMDb once in a while if I want to see somebody's profile or, I'm not really into the internet that way, but Twitter really interests me. I like this. I like the politics that goes on by way of statements that are made.
For me, media is very important. It's always on, I'm always on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Because for me, I see what is happening around the world fashion-wise.
Okay.
Today when you enter a party in Mumbai, anywhere, you'll always see somebody just texting on their phone like that and looking at what's happening on the Instagram or Twitter. So for me, it's a way I can express my, show my new designs or styles, or see what's happening, talk about why I have done the particular collection, the whole reasoning behind it.
The world's so small, you know, thanks to Twitter, really. Everything's so small.
You can even get feedback on Twitter, which is the best thing.
Yeah, there's no waiting for anything. There's instant gratification. You get to know right away. Like I can know right away what I'm wearing, if it, what kind of, you know, I can know right away.
And
So
you
expect
know the reactions to that right away.
Exactly. So.
No, we've had some political
Twitter. No, there are social media agencies which are different from advertising agencies like us. They manage your social media profile. So if there's an industry serving it, then it's obviously very important.
No, 100% on that. Because what happens is now, if you're doing something, if you want to build a movement, as he said, like it, and you know, it's your movement. But for me to get that message out, it's almost like a mini rally. About 60,000 people, 70,000 people, reaching out to them, saying, you know, I just attended this conference or I inaugurated this football field. A lot of times what I've seen is, again, my Mumbai 24/7 movement, that I tweeted about, and then it was taken up by the media. So somewhere or the other, even people who have a certain influence on societies are followed by different people. They think about that. It's like, you know, a telepathic thought going out to so many people.
But you know, given the film industry, I mean, since we're talking about film studies and music, the film industry is so haphazard, really. Like, it is almost impossible for a non-background person to really make it, or is it not anymore? I mean,
I don't know.
Background, you mean a family background?
Yeah.
I guess it's only among the acting. Usually the others.
Everything else, it's.
But again, I think it's opening up a lot.
Yeah, it is. You know, it is. Because see, it's a little bit. I think it's not fair to generalize. Although being an outsider and somewhat having a road into this space, you know, it's been a very interesting point of view. I know how easy it is for an army officer's son to get into the army. I know. It's very easy. It's not that tough at all. You have recommendations, you know exactly what the son is going to do. You know exactly what postings to get him. So it's obvious. I mean, every profession, the offspring of that, you know, will have an easier life trying to get into the same space. Naturally. Only being an actor, everything is much more glorified because everything is public. You know, everything is...
Or a politician.
Or a politician. Everything is public. But that doesn't make it easier or tougher. You know, I honestly feel like the burden of being a superstar's son or a daughter
is much more
much larger than coming up from anonymity.
Do you feel judged all the time? Yeah?
Of course, it's like you have to match up to that expectation of people. Because you're already a big designer's daughter, so you have to be like that. So it took time for me to actually get where I am, because I was always called Nishka Lulla's daughter, So now I'm called Nishka Lulla because I have my own style. Everybody thought I'm going to do bridals and Indian clothes and it's going to be like a mini version. But now I have my own style. I do streetwear, I do western clothes. It's more to the youth. So yeah, it's how you show yourself.
It's also probably the next generation always has some interest in that field. You know, it's not that everyone is pulled into the field to carry on the legacy. Yes, you have a good launch pad probably, but then you're always compared to your dad or your granddad, you know. Oh, does he walk like him? Does he talk like him? Does he dress like him?
Is he as good as him?
And then, you know, always there is one level that your parents have reached, and to reach that you will take your own sweet time. They expect you to do that in the first year itself.
I mean, it's an added advantage that you're coming from a family like this, because you know the know-hows, but to make your own mark is very difficult.
But I actually agree with her. It's more public. I think most doctors are generations, and most bankers, kids just gravitate towards that because I guess they have a fallback.
Fault of the media or something?
But anyway, I mean, to conclude, I mean, if we want to look at it like, you know, And just one last question in terms of, I mean, you've come from an army background, you've come from a, like, you know, a proper local how Mumbai grows kind of background, you have a very fashion with an international sense kind of background, you're hardcore into politics. When you interact with youth, what is their idea of India that you find? Are they nationalistic, or are they not really thinking on those lines, or is it one global village, or what is it that you are finding when you meet people?
It depends. I mean, it depends from where you meet the youth.
Yeah. Generally.
If you meet the youth at, say, a fashion week, they will be talking about the new fashions and styles and all. Of course, patriotism won't be there. If you speak to them at, say, the Red Fort, they will only speak about patriotism. It completely depends. That's what my interaction has been.
Sure, yeah.
I think they are more jingoistic than nationalistic. I think if they are in a group, it's great fun to say India, India. No, if you're alone, why India? Just do whatever. So it is a lot of your fraternity uses jingoism well. You know, news channels and stuff like that. They say what the whole country would like to say, even if it's not true.
But it's also somewhere that ideas of patriotism are changing. For example, till about last year, you couldn't wear your own flag. Now the courts have allowed you to wear your own flag, whereas if you go, just last year was the 60th anniversary of the Queen of England, and the flags were everywhere, from t-shirts to shoes to the cups and the chairs and all that. So it's just how you see a country, and I think that is slowly changing, and you're accepting that more.
So that's actually what we started out with. No?
It's making it more simple.
The images are so strong and so loud that we also want to conform to everything via images, or like have the flag but we're not sure how we feel about it, or
everything should move with the time a little bit. Educational system, or you know, like something very simple that I notice. When you go to watch a movie in a theatre, you have to stand up for the national anthem. Now there are 3, 4, 5, 6 versions of national anthems that I have seen. And I know I can sense the energy in the theatre when there is something that has been put up with interest and to invoke a feeling of patriotism, as opposed to something that's just drab and school assembly like. You know, just that stand up for the national anthem, and you better stand up for it, and you better not sit till the end of the last word. But that is something that I feel needs to come into our education system. That approach, you know, there is a way to communicate an idea. There is a way to inspire somebody who's 5 years old or somebody who's 65 years old and make them, stand for those 45 seconds or 53 seconds, how much ever that is. You know, that there is that little attention to detail needs to come in somewhere in the system, whether it's by way of a syllabus that I can take up pottery as well as biology, and have like a holistic growth, not just...
Actually, I completely agree with what she's saying, because I don't know how many people stand up for the national anthem when it plays on TV in the house.
Yeah, sure.
And it's far easier to stand up actually, because you're at home, and it may play on Independence Day. Forget about when you go to watch a movie. But I don't know how many stand up. There it is. Oh God, it's just stand up. So it's a box you tick off rather than something you do
from the heart.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.